Jim Collison, we are live from Infotec 2015 again, and thanks for joining us on this. I'm here with Mark and Jared from Catch Intelligence, and we're just spending some time catching up. I think third or fourth time, maybe, I've had you guys, third year in a row at Infotec. Have we ever interviewed you at Heartland Developer Conference, or do you guys not? You don't go to that one.
We do.
Do you go?
We do every once in a while, but no.
So, I think the third year in a row we've had you on. So, Mark, for folks who are just catching the video for the first time, why don't you tell us who you are, what you do, what you own, those kinds of things.
Yeah. So I'm president of Catch Intelligence, and work with our delivery team to deliver projects for customers, and I work with our sales and marketing team to understand needs and requirements. And like I said in the session today, I love to go out and do workshops and help paint the picture for the future. For a lot of times customers don't know maybe where they want to go to, and we would do workshops to help frame up the future, and then kind of paint the picture of how we get there. So,
no, very cool.
A ton of fun.
And I've known you a very long time here in Omaha, almost as long as I've been here. I was thinking 15 years, and not as many kids. Me either. 15 years or so, I think is kind of where we're at. So anyways, good. Jared, catch us up.
Yeah, Jared Ellwein, CTO, Catch Intelligence. So I get my fingers in anything that we do that becomes technology related, and a lot of my responsibilities involve just getting the right people involved on the right jobs, make sure that when clients have needs and Mark's painted them a picture, we can go in and actually deliver said picture.
Get it done.
Get it done.
Get the work done. And we
get to come out to these events and do a bunch of user groups and do some demos and presentations and hope to answer questions and give people some actually get to see the technology at play.
It's a good story for Omaha in the sense that we always love to have the Omaha companies that come here, stay, grow. You guys rebranded. We talked a little bit about that last time, so we won't dig in. But how's the work going? How's the rebranding going? Is it all? Are you all in at this point? Pretty much done, just moving forward.
I think when we put together the rebranding, we didn't talk to a lot of people about it. We had a very small group internally within our organization that was aware of it, maybe 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
And then we did a launch internally, and it was super exciting for everybody. And we had nothing but positive feedback from our internal launch. And that was really probably the barometer for us that, hey, we hit the mark on, nobody had any issues or problems with Catch Intelligence, and Catch Intelligence says what we do and what we deliver for our customers. And it's what customers really aspire to do within their organizations as well. So it's been great all the way around.
Good. Give me a little summary. I don't know which to go to here, but a little summary on the session that you guys gave. Maybe thinking in terms of what are the 1 or 2 main things that you were hoping people would walk out with. What would that be?
I'll take a first stab at
that.
So we had 2 sessions. First one was what we call advanced analytics, and a lot of our customers, when we look at the BI maturity, they're on level 1, level 2 of maybe level 5. So we want to help customers understand is kind of paint the picture for what advanced analytics looks like. And so our objective there was to paint that picture, help them see what that maturity curve looks like, and then also show some of this stuff, some advanced analytics demos so they get a feel for it. And then the next session was predictive analytics, which is kind of the next layer, which is looking at the future and trying to predict the future using algorithms, looking at history, leveraging that history, and using algorithms to figure out what things will happen in the future.
Yeah, we throw a lot of buzzwords, especially in the BI space. We throw a lot of buzzwords like advanced analytics. Can you give me a real world story, like of an organization? You can leave the names out to protect the guilty in that. But can you give me, when we think of that today, where is that making a difference in this space? Because we've spent a lot of time, you and I, in 15 years have talked BI a lot.
Sure.
Give me a concrete example of how that's working today.
Yeah, I think a good example, which we've applied this in healthcare a lot. The biggest challenge I'd say in healthcare is not necessarily the technology transformation around being measured. If we're implementing BI tools, we're measuring things, and sometimes people don't like to be measured. And when you look at healthcare in general, doctors and nurses and people that are doing their jobs don't necessarily like to be measured in terms of performance or in terms of quality. So, one of the things that we've been very focused on is helping make that transformation. Part of that is the company, is the organization, is the healthcare system ready for that transformation? Some of them just aren't, but we've been blessed with some that are very eager and anxious to do that. And from an overall performance management point of view, it absolutely improves the way the organization performs. It improves quality of care, it improves outcomes, it improves efficiency.
Any particular KPIs in there that you guys focused on or you're seeing when we think about healthcare? The goal is always to get some KPIs you can manage, turn some levers, make some difference, right?
Yeah.
Any particular KPIs that have come out of that?
Well, one on the predictive side that in the healthcare space, especially that we talked about, we built an algorithm using some history and a use case that we demoed. Let's go to readmission example. And basically with readmission, what we're trying to do is prevent readmission from happening. And in the past, hospitals would actually make more money the more times people come back into the hospital.
Sure.
Because they got to charge for the same service they just provided 3 times previously. With some of the new healthcare requirements, you basically now get paid one fee. So if you basically have the customer come back 3 times, you're just creating more cost and expense for the enterprise of the organization. So readmission is a huge thing in healthcare.
Okay.
So if we can, with some of the predictive tools, that we can basically build the algorithms, and then we can actually embed it in the application. So this person's getting ready to be discharged, and the person presses the button, okay, I'm going to discharge this person, and the system comes back and says, well, this person has a 95% chance of being readmitted versus a 5% chance of being readmitted. Well, they're going to probably do something different about it. Maybe it's don't let them leave.
Right.
Or maybe it is I'm going to outline three comebacks or 3 follow-ups to make sure that this person is taken
Schedule
care of.
some in-home care or something, but allow them to make some smart decisions based on
real time.
Yeah, like
when they need to do it.
The data says this. I'm now going to do these things to counteract that, as opposed to you'll be fine.
Give us a call.
Yeah, we put a Band-Aid on it. You'll be fine.
Yeah. or a month later when somebody actually runs the algorithm, a month later we're like, oh yeah, this person's going to come back. Well, they already came back 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's too late. So part of the power, I think, is how do we embed this in the normal work stream and the way people are working.
How have and Jared, let me throw this to you maybe. How have the tools changed in the last even just half decade? BI's consolidated, some things got better, I think, along those lines. How have the tools consolidated in a way that's made that easier? I mean, for the average business owner now, you and I have been doing this a long time. It was hard in the early days, right? How's it gotten better?
Well, what it's allowed us to do is by a lot of the consolidation is having the tool sets work together. So instead of having just one BI tool that was really good at enterprise reporting, but we tried to make it do everything from that to ad hoc and dashboards and everything else.
Right.
Now you actually have a dashboard tool that plays with the ad hoc tool, that plays with the enterprise reporting tool, and then you can have everything in one place.
Okay.
So instead of having to manually or through some sort of, don't look behind the curtain kind of stuff, make all these things play together, they naturally play together, and then you can use them for what they're intended, getting that information back out of the system.
And what are you seeing from your customers as far as demand for that reporting? I mean, I think in the last decade, man, we have changed. I mean, those platforms have changed infinitely. They're totally different now. What are you seeing? What's the actual use, or what kind of use cases are you getting from your users when we talk about the delivery mechanism, whether it be mobile or tablets or PC? What is that looking like now?
Yeah. So definitely they're wanting to get a lot more. Just about every client we get into, whether they're ready to do it quite yet or not, they all want to know that they can do mobile. Yeah. So that, a year from now or 6 months from now, whenever they're ready, they know they can just take the stuff they've spent all this time building.
And is that realistic though? I mean, you kind of hint in that sentence that not everybody's ready to do it. Are there folks who think they want to be there and that shouldn't, or?
Well, there's definitely always everybody thinks they want to do it. And primarily it's management right now that really wants to do it. They're the ones that already have the tablets and that kind of stuff. But as the organizations are getting used to managing some of these other phones that people are bringing in from home or their tablets from home and stuff like that, as they get used to managing those and playing it out there, they're able to start expanding this stuff out and giving it to them in the field as opposed to making them come back to the office to get it first.
Right. Any feedback from your session, that anything you guys learned after giving, it was 2 sessions, deep dive, or anything you didn't cover that you think, oh, I wish I would have after the fact that you would have covered, but any lessons out of their feedback from the audience where you think, oh, I saw something new, anything like that in these sessions today? Or very predictable? Did you run some analytics on the session? No, just kidding.
No, we didn't. We haven't even looked at the feedback yet. So yeah,
I was just thinking
really
sometimes you ask some questions and you get.
Well, we did. We at different points in times we had some questions. Some pretty basic ones like what is self-service. We kind of go through the BI pyramid and talk about all the components that are part of it. And sometimes people just kind of jump in and ask some questions that to us they seem pretty simple. But when you talk about self-service as an example, what does self-service mean? Is what the question was.
Yeah.
And I said that's a tough question to answer because it means so many different things to so many different people. When we look at self-service, our vision is self-service, and usually when we facilitate workshops for clients, their vision for self-service is they want to empower the business. I think a lot of our customers, the way they view self-service is they just view it to be, I'm delivering a report over a web-based application. That's what they think self-service is, and I can enter in some parameters into that report. That's often the definition within the business community of what they view self-service to be. But it could be and should be so much more, and that's where kind of painting that picture, helping getting with customers to paint the picture for, it should be a better vision where we're starting to actually build a better structure, building business views to empower the business to serve themselves with business intelligence and reporting and not having to be shackled to IT for all the reports that have to be created. That's the vision. That's what we see more consistently as we do workshops with customers is they want that self-service capability. Most of them say it, but they just don't know how to make it happen. Yeah. And so for us, part of painting that picture is, okay, this is part of the vision. Now we need to figure out what the components that are needed on the data side, on the BI layers to make it happen.
Yeah.
Along those lines, one of the things I've been kind of surprised by to some extent as we've been doing some of these groups lately is how many of the organizations, like I said, we've been talking about this a long time. We've been out there pushing this stuff and doing a lot of this for so long. Right. You feel like everybody should already have this, and there's all these mature BI organizations out there, and it turns out there's still so many organizations that don't have a lot of this stuff, and so we're still educating sometimes on the basics and the level ones and the level twos, like Mark was talking about in the maturity area. We ran into a client just this last year that they scanned their network and they had over 1 million spreadsheets on the network because they had no organized BI strategy. So, they're in this spreadsheet hell of having these things everywhere.
Using the #1 BI tool.
Right. Yeah. So rather than having, a platform and ways to do this in an organized method, millions of spreadsheets around the network.
Yeah. Data was always, you allude to this, right? That's data disparate all over the network. You can't get any, you don't really have any command and control. Has that gotten any better in the last couple of years in the enterprise with some advancements that we've made in the database world? Or is it still just a big mess trying to get people's data pulled together? That always seems to be the hardest thing. Jared, you're in the field doing some of this stuff now, or taking the requirements for it anyways. Better or worse?
For the organizations that have decided to get a handle on it and to take control of it, I would say it definitely has gotten better. But again, you still run into these places that they've kind of let it go for a while, and people will do what they need to do to get their jobs done, right?
Right.
So they'll do what they have to, and they've done what they've had to. But there's still a lot of places out there that could get a better handle on it and could get their arms around it and get control of it.
Yeah.
Still is very much the wild west out there.
Yeah,
it just is. And I think the challenge is what's going to continue to happen is business is going to continue to buy applications, and sometimes they're going to get input from IT, and sometimes they're just going to go buy it.
Yeah.
And so what we're seeing is continuing challenges in that vein, in that area where data is exploding, and it's exploding exponentially, and it's hard for everybody to get their arms around it. But I would say what we think customers need to be thinking about is, what is their data management strategy, and it should be very important as they build their business strategy. It should be very aligned. But often it's not.
So in our world of devices and nodes and presence, where we're getting, like you mentioned, we're getting more data, social media. Are you guys seeing, or are you having to respond to this? I mean, we've always said, the world's exploding with data, but I mean it literally.
Oh, yeah.
Are you seeing that in what you're doing in the enterprise? Are you seeing new data channels? And maybe what's the most challenging one for you at this point to tackle when you're working with a customer? Is there one in particular, or maybe a group of them? That's a tough one. It's a tough challenge to get a hold of. I mean, you think of you might think of a wearable that's collecting information constantly. That would be a huge thing to manage. Are you seeing anything like that out there?
We are. I mean, we're seeing, I call it sensor data. So, it's sensor data being collected like you didn't collect that information before in use cases that you just didn't think of. So it could be semis, got semis running down the road. And before they didn't have computers on those, but they all have computers on them now.
Yeah.
And so that data is all being set up in the satellites and being brought into the data warehouse. So it's all being collected now.
Yeah.
Utilities now are capturing all kinds of data. Meter data is a great example. Your meter person would come around once a month and check your meter.
Read one number.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now every 15 minutes it's updated.
Right.
So organizations in that utility space are just getting floored with the amount of data that they're capturing now. And it's overwhelming for them, and it's overwhelming for a lot of customers that basically are starting to capture that data. They know there's value in it, but they're still struggling with how do they fit this into their data management strategy? How does they fit that into their structured data plans? And there's just great opportunities to use.
You mentioned structured data. What about unstructured, and what about big data? When you guys think about, Jared, I'll throw this one over to you. More and more, right? Some of this data is being handled using big data. How is that affecting the BI community today, or is it just a matter of a different call, or how is that working in the big data side?
No, it's definitely having a big effect, and we've seen it in a couple of different ways. We've seen it in different tools needing to be had different database structures. SAP and others have been coming out with just whole new databases to handle these things, because instead of talking about gigabytes and terabytes, now we're talking about petabytes of data warehouses, as well as the front end tools have had to change. A good old report that used to have a few thousand lines of data, or now users are wanting to pull 1 million records in and do some analysis against that on the fly. And so being able to handle that volume has put the software developers a challenge, which then they come up with a solution, which of course was the hardware guys a challenge. So we throw in some changes over to 64-bit technology. So now we have a lot more memory available to us, but then all of a sudden where 4 gig of RAM on a server looked like it was a ton. Now if a server has 20 gig of RAM on it, that's like a starter kit.
Right.
So, so it's thrown off, infrastructure teams, we come in and do an upgrade or do some new software installs, and they're floored at how much hardware we want to have to do this stuff.
Right.
But it's really what's needed in order to get the job done.
Yeah. Are you finding that a lot of companies are grappling with just the sheer amount and size and a way to store it in an efficient way to get it back out? Is that still a problem, or are we getting past some of that?
I'd say it's still a problem.
Okay.
Especially, you got to find the right customers that have those challenges or use cases for big data, and the meter data is a great example.
Yeah.
They have to look at maybe different technologies to store the volumes of data that they're talking about. I'd say the same thing with social media data. For clients that are in that e-commerce retail space where they need to track all that stuff, the data volumes are huge.
Yeah.
So, those guys have to look at different ways that they're going to store that data. And sometimes they're looking at the Hadoops or the big data platforms to support that.
Yeah.
And then you have to look at how do you integrate that stuff together with your structured data.
Yeah. No, we're in an amazing time, I think, when we think about data and just what's available to us. So we always used to talk, 10 years ago, we talked about how much data there was, and now I think we're creating more data in an hour than we would in a whole week in some cases. Yeah. And not all of it's good. Not all of it's usable.
That's
yeah.
the point. It's trying to figure out what the useful stuff is.
Right.
And what's just noise.
Yeah, no, for sure. Last question for you guys. So I kind of want to think about the future. And I've been, with the other guests, I've been saying anything, but because I know you guys, I want to kind of keep it to BI. As we think about the future, 3 to 5 years, things that are coming up that you're excited about that we are either just starting to see or haven't seen yet, but know that industry needs. So Mark, let me start with you.
Sure. Anything
there? I mean, as you look ahead, you're like, oh man, I can't wait for this to happen.
Yeah, well, I think around the big data. Big data is a great opportunity for us, and it's a great opportunity for us to really cross-sell. It's a kind of different data challenges, different data opportunities, but it still fits into the overall data management platform strategy.
Yeah.
And so it's an opportunity for us and another opportunity for us to grow our practice and grow our
What do they
services.
do? If people are listening to this and they're like, yeah, you know what, I know I'm going to have to make this switch to big data. What do they do? I mean, what's the first step for most organizations?
Yeah.
What should they be thinking about?
Well, I think you have to look at the requirements and the use cases, because not everybody has needs and requirements for big data. So it's really where are the right use cases and requirements for
Okay.
it. So that's where we would come in and help paint the picture for the future. And
Right.
if it's in play, then it's part of the strategy that they look at moving forward with their data management plan.
Okay. And are you helping in the area of big data? Are you guys jumping in on Hadoop and some
We're
of those
starting
things?
to get in there.
Okay.
We're probably, from a practice perspective, it's one of those things that we're actually meeting next week to talk about plans for the next year. And we're excited about the opportunity to talk about big data. And I see us having maybe a big data practice. And that will be part of something that really complements our data warehouse practice and data warehouse team.
Yeah. Has the cloud changed anything for you guys as far as, because data used to all sit local and now it's all in the cloud? Has that caused problems? I should say problems, opportunities?
Yeah, it's problems and opportunities.
Yeah.
And I used to have an old boss that said there's no such thing as problems, it's all opportunities, right? So I kind of subscribe to that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
frankly, if the data, we got a lot of customers that, the businesses, they made their decision, they're going to buy this, they're going to use this service.
Right.
And it is a service in the cloud, but it's a key part of their data set.
Right.
But part of their data management strategy is I got to marry this data with all these other
Yeah.
data sources. So guess what? I got to figure out, I'm going to pull that data out of the cloud and bring it into the data warehouse and marry it up.
And just because it's in the cloud doesn't mean it's absent from federation, right? There's
Right.
going to be times you need to pull that. You need to pull those.
Yep.
I think some people think, I'll take it to the cloud and that's going to fix it. And it's like, no, it's just somewhere else,
Yeah.
right? The data just lives
Well,
somewhere else.
And I think along those lines, Jared's team's built some tools and the ability to integrate with applications that might be in the cloud too, or applications in general. So if I want to embed BI into Salesforce.com or SharePoint, I have the ability to do that. And the users don't know where the BI system's at or where the data's at. It just seamlessly gets delivered to them within their application, which is what customers want.
Right. Yeah, they just want to do it. They want to set it and forget it, right? And they want to be able to. Jared, future stuff for you. What are you excited about?
The biggest thing I think we've been doing a lot of right now is just kind of trying to bring predictive a little bit more into the space. It's been out there obviously for a long time, but it's been in small pockets. You got the Uber geeks back in the closets that are back, crunching their numbers, and they come up for daylight once a year or so. And and just some of the stuff now, the tools and technology are getting there to where you don't have to have those guys in the back office doing it all. You can start bringing it out and making it a little bit more mainstream. So that's kind of the area we're excited in getting into and
cool.
pushing a little bit more now.
Good.
Data mining and predictive analytics.
Yeah, well, and that is, I think there's a huge future still. I think we're just scraping the surface on predictability. I'm scared to think that machines may discover that before we do. They'll get smart enough to be able to crunch the numbers on their own and start spitting some things out that may not be good for the human race. But that is I still think that's a huge gap when we talk about predictive analytics. Lots of things we're still struggling to get through the numbers. Hard to be predictable until you can start doing some test cases and then say, do I have the right algorithms written? And there's some great companies doing it very, very well right now. Especially when we think of the social media companies, that's their job, right? Amazon probably maybe better than anybody in that area. But they are indeed. Well, guys, thanks for taking a few minutes. It's always great to catch up with you. We got to do this more than twice a year, maybe, but good. Thanks. If you're